Before we begin, take a second and make sure you're subscribed, because what you're about to hear might completely change the way you look at the coins sitting quietly in your drawer, your pocket, or even that old box you haven't opened in years. There are stories hidden in metal, stories of power, history, and sometimes unbelievable value. And today, we're diving into one of those coins that most people overlook without a second thought, the 10 cents Lion South African coin. Stay with me until the end, because what this small piece of metal could be worth might shock you. Picture this: a coin, modest in size, worn by time, passed from hand to hand across decades. At first glance, it looks ordinary, just another piece of change. But if you look closer, really closer, you'll notice the lion. Strong, proud, a symbol of authority and heritage. That lion isn't just decoration. It represents a period, a story, a nation's identity stamped into metal. Now here's the truth most people don't realize. Coins like this were never meant to be rare. They were minted in large numbers, used daily, spent without thought. But time has a strange way of changing things. Coins get lost, melted, damaged, forgotten, and slowly, quietly, the number of surviving pieces begins to shrink. That's where the story begins to change. Collectors, especially experienced ones, don't just look at coins. They study them. They hunt for details, small variations, mint marks, errors, the kind of things most people would never notice. And within those tiny details lies the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth a fortune. The 10 cents Lion South African coin holds a special place in the world of numismatics. Not because every single coin is valuable, but because certain versions, certain conditions, certain rare variations have become incredibly desirable. Think about the men who have spent decades collecting. Men in their 50s, 60s, even older. They've seen markets rise and fall. They've handled coins from every corner of the world. And still, when a rare South African lion coin appears, it catches their attention. Why? Because rarity combined with demand creates something powerful. Let's go deeper. First, condition. This is everything. A coin that has been heavily used, scratched, faded, it loses much of its potential value. But a coin that has been preserved, protected, almost untouched by time, that's where things get interesting. Collectors use grading systems. Terms like very fine, extremely fine, and the most sought after, mint state. A mint state coin looks almost exactly the way it did the day it was produced. No wear, no damage, just pure detail. Now imagine finding a 10 cents lion coin in that kind of condition. It's rare, extremely rare. But condition alone isn't enough. The year matters. Certain years had lower mintages. Some years had subtle design differences. Some even had errors, and errors, ironically, can make a coin far more valuable. A misprint, a slight misalignment, a detail that shouldn't be there, or should be, but isn't. These are the things collectors dream about. There have been cases, real cases, where collectors spent years searching for a specific variation of a coin. Years. And when they finally found it, they were willing to pay incredible amounts to own it. Because for them, it's not just money. It's the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of completing a collection, the pride of owning something truly rare. Now let's talk about history. The lion on the coin isn't random. It reflects strength, independence, and identity. South Africa went through major political and economic changes over the decades, and its coins reflect those shifts. Designs changed. Materials changed. Even the inscriptions evolved. That means each coin is like a snapshot in time. And collectors love that. They're not just buying metal. They're buying history. Now imagine holding that history in your hand. A coin that has passed through markets, shops, and hands long before you ever saw it. A coin that may have been carried by someone decades ago, used in a completely different world. That connection, that sense of continuity, is something collectors value deeply. But here's where things take a turn. Most people who own these coins don't even know what they have. They see 10 cents and assume it's worth 10 cents. They toss it aside, ignore it, spend it without thinking. And that's exactly why rare coins continue to slip through the cracks. Every year, valuable coins are lost simply because no one recognized them. So the question becomes, what if you already have one? What if that small, overlooked coin sitting somewhere in your home is actually something much more? It happens more often than you think. A man cleaning out his old drawer finds a coin he hasn't seen in years. He almost throws it away. Something stops him. He looks it up, takes it to a collector, and suddenly, everything changes. Because that coin isn't ordinary. Now let's bring this closer to reality. Collectors today are actively searching for rare South African coins. Auctions, private sales, online marketplaces, the demand is real. And when demand rises, so does value. Especially for coins that meet 3 key conditions: rarity, condition, authenticity. If a 10 cents lion coin checks all 3, it enters a completely different category. Not pocket change anymore. A collectible, an asset, something people compete for. Because when the right coin meets the right buyer at the right time, anything can happen. Now imagine that scenario with the 10 cents lion South African coin. A rare year. Perfect condition. Unique characteristics. A collector who has been searching for it for years. An auction where multiple serious buyers are present. The tension builds. The bids rise. And suddenly, that small coin becomes the center of attention. Not because of what it looks like, but because of what it represents. Scarcity, history, opportunity. And in that moment, its value is no longer tied to its face value. It becomes something far greater. Now take a step back and think about your own situation. How many coins have you handled over the years? How many have you ignored? How many are sitting somewhere right now, waiting to be discovered? This is why experienced collectors always say the same thing: never underestimate a coin. Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often hidden in the smallest details. A tiny mark, a slight variation, a year you didn't think mattered. That's all it takes. Now let's talk mindset. The men who succeed in this field, the ones who build valuable collections, they don't rush. They observe. They learn. They pay attention to detail. They understand that value isn't always obvious. And they're patient, because patience allows opportunity to reveal itself. If you approach coins the same way, you start to see things differently. You stop looking at them as currency and start seeing them as potential. Now imagine the possibility. You go through your old coins. You take your time. You research. You compare. And then you find it. A 10 cents lion coin that matches the characteristics of a rare version. The weight feels right. The design details match. The condition, surprisingly good. At that moment, everything changes. Because now you're no longer guessing. You're holding something that could be valuable. Very valuable. And the next step becomes crucial. Verification. Serious collectors and buyers don't rely on guesswork. They rely on authentication, professional grading, expert evaluation. Because when a coin is verified, its value becomes real, recognized, trusted, and that's when the doors open. Auctions, private buyers, collectors willing to pay top prices. Now here's where we reach the moment you've been waiting for. The number that turns curiosity into shock. The kind of number that makes people go back and check their coins immediately. Based on rare documented cases, extreme collector demand, and the right combination of rarity, condition, and historical significance, A 10-cent Lion South African coin has been associated with a staggering valuation reaching up to $28 million. Of course not. Don't assume it's worthless. Take a closer look. Because you never know. That small piece of metal might just change everything. And if you're still here, still listening, then you already understand something most people never will. Value doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it sits quietly in the background, waiting for the right person to notice. Now let's go even deeper, because this is where things start separating the casual viewer from the serious collector. When you hold a 10-cent Lion South African coin, you're not just holding metal. You're holding craftsmanship from a specific era. The texture, the edges, the weight, all of it was carefully designed. Back then, coin production wasn't just about creating currency. It was about precision, identity, and durability. Run your fingers across the surface of such a coin. If it's been preserved well, you can still feel the sharpness of the design. The lion's mane, the fine lines, the lettering. These details matter more than most people realize. Because in the world of collectors, detail is everything. Now imagine two coins from the same year. One is worn down, smooth, faded from years of use. The other? Crisp, clear, almost untouched. To the average person, they might seem similar. To a collector, they are worlds apart. That difference alone can mean the jump from a few dollars to thousands, sometimes even more. And this is where discipline comes in. It becomes valuable because of time, rarity, and survival. It survives while others don't. It remains while others disappear. And over decades, that survival becomes scarcity. And scarcity creates demand. Now let's talk about something many people ignore: edges. Yes, the edges of a coin. Most people never look at them, but collectors do. Why? Because sometimes the edge can reveal things the face cannot. Certain minting errors show up along the rim. Slight irregularities, differences in thickness, even small inconsistencies can signal something unusual. And unusual is exactly what collectors look for. Now consider this. A coin with a minor minting error might have been overlooked at the time of production. It entered circulation like any other coin. No one noticed. No one cared. But years later, when collectors examine it closely, that same error becomes a rare feature. And suddenly, what was once a flaw becomes a defining characteristic. This is how value transforms. Now imagine combining that with excellent condition. A rare error, minimal wear, clear design. That's not just a coin anymore. That's a prize. Now let's shift to another important factor: metal composition. Collectors often weigh coins, measure them, even test their composition. Weight, diameter, thickness, everything must align. And when it does, confidence increases. Confidence leads to higher offers. Higher offers lead to serious money. Now think about the journey of a collector in his 50s or 60s. He spent years, maybe decades, building his collection. He's not buying randomly. He's filling gaps, searching for that one missing piece, that one coin he hasn't been able to find. And when he finally sees it, when it finally appears, he doesn't hesitate. Because for him, it's not just another purchase. It's completion. And completion has a price he's willing to pay. Now imagine that scenario happening with a rare 10-cent Lion coin. Years of searching, endless comparisons, countless near misses. And then, there it is. Authentic, well-preserved, exactly what he's been looking for. What do you think happens next? The price becomes secondary, because the opportunity might never come again. And that's the power of rarity. Now let's talk about something even more interesting: hidden collections. There are people out there right now who own coins they've never properly examined. Inherited collections, old family belongings, boxes stored away for years. Inside those boxes, there could be coins of real value, but they remain undiscovered. Why? Because no one took the time to look. No one asked questions. No one compared details. And that's where opportunity exists. Not in crowded markets. Not in obvious places. But in the overlooked. The ignored. The forgotten. Now think about your own environment again. Old drawers. Storage boxes. Wallets. Even jars filled with coins. How many of those have you actually examined? Not quickly. Not casually. But carefully. Because careful observation changes everything. Now let's go deeper into the psychology of collectors. Men who have spent years in this field develop a certain instinct. They can look at a coin and immediately sense whether it's worth further inspection. They notice things others don't. Alignment, color tone, surface texture, and most importantly, authenticity. Because in a world where value can reach extraordinary levels, verification becomes critical. There are fakes out there, replicas, altered coins, and experienced collectors know how to spot them. That's why authentication services exist. Professional grading companies evaluate coins using strict standards. They assign grades. They confirm authenticity. And once a coin is certified, its market value becomes far more stable. Buyers trust it, collectors respect it, and sellers can command higher prices. Now imagine your coin going through that process. Careful examination, professional grading, authentication confirmed. At that point, you're no longer guessing. You have proof, and proof changes everything. Now let's bring back the bigger picture. The idea that a small coin could reach a valuation as high as $28 million isn't about luck. It's about conditions aligning perfectly. Rarity, condition, demand, timing, all coming together at once. And when they do, the result can be extraordinary. Now, you might be thinking, what are the chances? And that's a fair question. The truth is, not every coin will reach that level. In fact, most won't. But that doesn't mean none will. Because history has already shown that rare coins can achieve unbelievable prices. And it only takes one. One coin. One discovery. One moment of realization. To change everything. Now think about the mindset shift this creates. Instead of ignoring coins, you start paying attention. Instead of dismissing them, you examine them. Instead of spending them without thought, you pause. And that pause, that moment of curiosity, that's where discovery begins. Now imagine sharing this knowledge with others. Friends, family, people who have never considered that coins could hold hidden value. Suddenly, you become the one who sees what others don't. The one who understands. The one who looks twice. And sometimes that's all it takes. Because the difference between someone who finds value and someone who misses it often comes down to awareness. Awareness leads to action. Action leads to discovery. Discovery leads to opportunity. And opportunity can lead to life-changing results. Now picture this final scenario. You're sitting at a table. In front of you are several coins. Among them, a 10-cent Lion South African coin. You pick it up. You examine it closely. You notice details you would have ignored before. Something feels different. You research. You compare. You verify. And slowly, the realization begins to form. This isn't just another coin. This is something more. Something rare. Something valuable. And in that moment, everything shifts. Because what was once ordinary becomes extraordinary. And that is the power hidden within coins. Not obvious, not loud, but real, very real. So the next time you come across a coin like this, remember what you've heard today. Look closer, think deeper, take your time. Because hidden within that small piece of metal could be a story, a history, and possibly a value far beyond what anyone expects. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one who finds it,